Jackson Radio Show.
Hey, fellow patriots, you're listening to The Kevin Jackson Show on KJRadio.com. I'm your guest host, Liz Matory, filling in for Kevin today. Again, thank you so much for checking in and appreciate your patience, time, and effort, and of course, all you do for our republic. Yeah, so earlier I had introduced myself. I'm Liz Matory. I am, I guess, a new guest host for Kevin. And again, I appreciate and thank Kevin for this opportunity to connect with his audience. You guys are awesome. And at the end of the day, we have a lot of work ahead of us. So through these next couple of hours with you, I definitely want to share my story simply so that we can encourage more people to join us in this cause, this if anything, so that we can try to save our republic. It's literally now or never, guys. You know how bad it is out there. And, you know, my frustration throughout my entire journey, especially in the last 4 years, is, you know, everything I get to experience and see, the conversations I have, the connections, the people that I get to meet, it really frustrates me. You know, I'm wondering, why don't more people know this? Why aren't more of us, and when I say us, I mean American citizens, why don't we know more about what we now as conservatives are aware of? You know, the things that I was able to learn, you know, you really have to, you got to leave the Democrat Party, to be honest, in order to really get a better sense of what is going on. I live in Montgomery County. Montgomery County is right outside of the District of Columbia. You know, if you think D.C. is bad, Montgomery County, and in many respects Arlington in Virginia, this is where all the lobbyists live. You know, all the lobbyists live down the street from me, not necessarily right next to me, but down the street and around the corner. You know, all the top media folks, they live out in the county. You know, I grew up a year behind Chelsea Clinton. You know, the Obama girls go to my school or went to my school. My classmates were the children of, you know, congressmen and senators and, you know, the media elite. And even back then, quite frankly, whether it was when I was 9 years old or, you know, all the way through high school and in college, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let you know, and a little secret, they aren't the smartest. I'm not saying that they're not smart people. Many of them are, but it's really easy to realize how privilege kind of, it allows for a lot of leeway. So, you know, you're sitting in class, right? And you're like, man, you know what? If your father or mother weren't who they were, you probably wouldn't get into Civil. You know, I mean, let's face it, you know, if anything, that sort of privilege and or arrogance and or sort of, I was born on third base. Mind you, I'm not going to lie, I was born between second and third, so I'm not saying that it is what it is, but it's really interesting to be privy to how people grow up and their point of view and their perspectives. You know, we have such a shared experience, but as a person of color, if you will, in these environments, there's always the sense of, you're not seeing the full picture, bro. You know, like you're sitting there and you're like, you know, and sometimes, you know, the reason why I speak highly of my parents and their professionalism is the fact that I know for a fact in my sort of circles, there are very few of us still. You know, I mean, if anything, there should be more of us. And that's another, you know, mission that we are all on, is to make sure that we build out the pie and make sure that more people get to progress and to really excel. But, you know, they're still, in some circles, few and far between. So you're sitting in class or you're in these work environments now, and, you know, you really realize that the perspective, the point of view that some folks out there have is very narrow. And so when I talk about my parents, I really, you know, I pay, you know, honor to them, because if anything, now that I know how they raised me and how their parents before them raised them, were by conservative principles. Again, I know I'm speaking to the choir. I know that I'm like well in the church right here within the tent, but all this stuff is like relatively new for me. And, you know, when you know that very many people who, Filipinos or Filipino Americans, they tend to be, you know, their mate. And so that's why I talk about my mom being an obstetrician gynecologist, because I know you listeners out there interact and interface individual to individual, patriot to patriot. You kind of get to learn and know and understand people on the individual level. You don't sort of label folks, but that's what they do. Like on the left, I am not Liz. I am not the child of my parents. I am the black chick. I am the kind of loudmouth black girl who doesn't know her place, you know? And another awesome thing that I love about being a conservative is that, and again, being a registered Republican is, you know, this is the first time that my counterparts, the people in the room interact with me as a fellow American. You know, before, it's all about labels. It's all about, what you look like or, what you assume to be labeled as opposed to the value that you have and your might, your individual ability. And I think that, that's kind of where we have to start. There is a fundamental difference between how we believe and what we think and how we interact and interface and see each other versus what liberals or the left or the Democrat Party thinks of people. Again, every single time I talk about this stuff, the people who understand are in it. They're like, yep, Liz, great, awesome, keep on doing what you're doing. We get it. Fight the good fight. But some folks, a lot of folks resist. And some of the folks that do resist are like, oh, Liz, why are you all about the labels? It shouldn't matter about party. It shouldn't matter about being conservative or liberal. And I get what people are trying to say. There's this no labels movement. Awesome. Great. Good on you. But I am a big proponent of identifying the problem first before you, act like it's not non-existent. Yes, it is a tough pill to swallow. Again, a lot of you have already swallowed said pill and you're totally fine with it, but the people who are resisting, and again, we'll talk about the resistance movement later, but people who resist, the reason why they want to act like they don't want to talk about the labels is that I think they don't want to admit that their own party or their own sort of philosophy is actually wrong. It sucks to, I don't know if I can say sucks, but whatever, I just said it again. It's unfortunate to know that people aren't willing to be wrong. I'm not absolutely right. I know that a lot of us make a lot of mistakes, but we all know that the Democrat Party has been taken over by leftist Marxists, and what are we going to do about it? You and Kevin and all of us here talk a lot, but again, we need to get more of the rest of us to, break out. We have to take a little break now, but I look forward to connecting with you in the next couple of moments.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.